Hello and welcome to the Game Design Archive with Edward and Ludwig, episode 9.
Hello.
Hello. Today we are gonna talk about why we think fair games are boring.
Yes.
Your turn, Ludwig.
Yes. So, we are of the opinion that game designers, and especially modern game designers, are way too obsessed with their games being fair.
Their interpretation of fairness.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everything in the game should be completely fair. Like nothing should be unfair in quotation marks, nothing should be unexpected, etc., etc. Everything should be clearly like communicated and everything. And we think that this is kind of BS. We don't really think that unfair as a concept exists. And we think that focusing on making your games fair...
Well, it does actually, in certain contexts in games, I would argue it does exist, but I'm gonna... Yeah, you keep going.
Go ahead. You wanted to say something.
Yeah, so I'm gonna basically build on what you just said. So, in my opinion, you can't really have an unfair single-player game. Because if you think about the word fair, right? What this essentially means is like you have a deal or something, right? Or a match. That's why I'm saying that it does work in certain contexts, like multiplayer games, for example, like with players. You have two people or whatever. There are two sides to something that is fair, right? So, like, a game is something you do with your time, but the game doesn't have an opinion about anything, right?
Yep.
You're not giving something to the game and then the game giving you, I mean, your time, right? Or whatever. You could argue that, I guess, but it's not like if you think about the trade, right? It's like, oh, you paid this much and they get this thing.
Yeah.
Is that fair or not?
Yeah.
But what does that, like, how do you translate that to a game? It doesn't work. Like, it's too subjective. Because there's no counterbalance to say that it was fair or not. It's only you and what you think is fair or not.
Well, I think what most game designers think about when they say fair, they mean that it's like in some way telegraphed, or you're warned ahead of time, or nothing's really a surprise. Yeah. Sort of. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And I guess... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's very subjective, though.
Yeah, of course.
So like, you will get a completely different experience depending on the skill level of the designer, then, if you use that definition, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess I think that, like, one of the important points, I guess, is that they think that everything should be reactable, right? It's like if an enemy pops up, he should pop up really slowly and ahead of time, and he should make a very clear telegraphed attack move animation thing, and then the animation thing should go slowly so that you have time to dodge it, because otherwise it's unfair. And, like, the reason why that doesn't work really is that, well, first of all, it makes the game incredibly boring, because all of a sudden, like, it automatically becomes too easy in a way, right? It's like, okay, now I see an enemy, now I need to dodge. It's like, I think I've mentioned the example previously from The Witcher 3, where it's like, if you spam your attack repeatedly, after a certain amount of attacks, the enemy will parry you, like, to prevent spamming, I guess, is the point.
Yeah.
But the problem with that mechanic is that when the enemy parries you, he doesn't attack you, right? He just parries you, and then you have time to recover before he attacks you.
Yes, you don't need to do anything about it.
Exactly.
It's just an extraction, and then you...
Yeah. So it's like you spam until the enemy parries you, and then you dodge because you recover fast enough to be able to dodge.
Yeah.
And so like it doesn't really matter that he parried you, right?
I see. Yeah.
And I think that's sort of, people would say that that's unfair that he parried you and then hit you, but it's like, no, it's fair because after he's parried you, you can't do anything about it. And I think that's sort of the thing that people feels is unfair, right? It's like, after he parries you, you can't do anything about it, therefore it's unfair. But it's like, no, you shouldn't be in the situation where you're parried in the first place, right?
Yeah.
You are the reason that you got parried by the enemy, and so you should be punished for it now, and that's fair, in my opinion. Of course, going back to that, like, unfairness is subjective.
Yeah, if you, how should I say this? Yeah, I guess it doesn't necessarily have with speed. The reaction. So it's actually interesting because you made me think about a thing here, that a lot of modern games have very like fast movement.
Yep.
And I just realized, I think this is part of the reason, because if you can make, so if you follow the rule, it needs to be, it's telegraphed, right? So you need to be able to see it before it happens. Then to make it at least slightly interesting, not very interesting, but a little bit interesting, what you will have to do is make the game very fast paced, because then you can make things faster again.
Yep.
Which is
I think
interesting.
I think one good example of the opposite is a game that we've talked about in several episodes. It's Vulgar the Viking, the legendary game, and one of the best mechanics in that game, in my opinion, is that your jump, you don't have any control in the air. So it's like, when you jump, you commit 100% to that.
Yeah.
And the way that game is designed is that sometimes the game sort of tricks you into making a jump, and then like puts something in your way in the middle of the jump, right?
Yeah.
And because you don't have control in there, you're fucked, right? Because oh shit, I jumped, now I've committed, and now something's in my way.
Yeah,
and
you can't
die or something.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of people would say that that's unfair, but I would not, because
there's even isn't there like a jump in the first? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember there's a jump in the first level where he's tricking you to jump into like an enemy, and if you do that, you have committed to a jump that's gonna hurt you later. So it's not even that it's like you didn't even need to jump, but you did because you wanted to kill the enemy, because you'll get like an attack if you jump or something like that. Yeah.
And once again, going back, most designers would say that that's unfair. It's like, you trick the player into jumping, that's unfair, because he can't do anything about it after he's pressed jump. But the thing is that, like, that's interesting game design, because what ends up happening is that you as a player needs to be like concerned, or you need to care and be careful about when you jump, right? Because the problem isn't that you don't have air control. The problem is that you jumped when you shouldn't have. Like, you weren't careful enough.
Yeah.
And I think, if we have this point of view where it's like everything needs to be fair, and you need to be able to react to everything, and you need to be able to change your mind all the time, like, nothing becomes interesting. You wouldn't have that thing in Vulgar the Viking, because, you wouldn't need to commit to any of your actions, and nothing would matter in a sense.
Well, you can make certain games that, like for example, a rhythm game. A rhythm game is basically always reactable.
Yeah.
So you can do that and compensate.
I mean, it depends on how good you are, but in theory.
But that's the thing with this thing, right? I don't think that matters, like how good you are, to the fairness.
Yeah, of course.
It's like there is always time to press a button to make this thing happen, right? And the way a rhythm game would compensate for that is it would be very hard, right? Like it would be very fast, right?
Yeah.
So it's very fair or like reactable, but it's insanely difficult
Yeah.
in terms of like how accurate you need to be.
Yeah.
Or like how many buttons you need to press or something, right? So it adds difficulty by doing that. And I think a lot of modern games are going in that direction. It feels like for example, it's very common in modern games to have parries, which is basically a rhythm game thing, right? It's like you click, or Simon Says stuff mechanics, right? Oh, he does the red attack, so now I do the red block, and now he does the blue attack, stuff like that, right? And or like he has this thing, so it's very telegraphed.
Exactly. I think even that's a good point, because even like if you look at hard modern games, like recently released hard games, they are also going a lot in that direction, where it's like everything is reactable. It's just like super fast or hard to execute or something like that.
Yeah, and but the thing is, I don't think that making games like that is necessarily bad if they are hard.
That's true.
I just think it's more interesting most of the time to have some other elements as well, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is that game designers are saying that you shouldn't do the other way at all. It's like that's bad game design. Which is not true.
One thing I want to bring up with this is that it's essentially you could potentially think of it as strategy or tactics.
Yeah.
So what a rhythm game is it doesn't have that, right? It's reaction. It's you do the thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's cool in a rhythm game, right? But
it's like, in a sense,
it's less interesting in an action game to me.
Yeah, it's sort of like the most pure version of an action game in a sense, right?
Yeah. And for example, in a multiplayer setting, that would be very uninteresting in my opinion. Because you like having a competition where people just I mean, I guess some people play competitive rhythm games, I guess, but
but then it's like score based and stuff.
But I guess that's sort of score based. But my point is that there is a lot. So if we talk about Counter-Strike, for example, that you like a lot, the reason that game is competitively interesting is not because of the high skill ceiling of the shooting, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's the like strategical part, and I think that's sort of missing from a lot of games in general.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's like, I think one funny example from CS that I don't know if it's exactly sort of what we're talking about, but it's the flashbang. Because like if you get flashed, you're in a lot of situations fucked, right? Because if you get flashed, you don't see anything, and the enemy can just peek you and kill you. And I don't know, maybe that's not exactly what we're talking about today, but it's like the solution to being flashed is to not get flashed, right? It's not that you should buy flash goggles or something.
Yeah, that is definitely part of what we're talking about.
Because it's like the reason you got flashed is because you weren't prepared to be flashed, right?
Yeah.
And so the solution to that is to always be prepared and be ready to look away, and don't be in a situation where you can be flashed.
Yeah.
I guess. And as you said, a lot of that is missing from modern game design. A lot of modern game design, I think the flash is probably a bad example of this, because I think the flash is something that could exist in a modern game. Like, most designers wouldn't say it's a bad mechanic, but it's like the solution to being flashed is not buying flash goggles or whatever.
But I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. So I think a flash, obviously, if you look at like Call of Duty or something, they have flashbacks, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think if that mechanic did not already exist, they would think of adding it in that way.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's sort of a legacy thing, right? It's like already understood mechanics.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe.
Because there is a lot of that in modern games, where they have mechanics that don't align with how they talk about game design at all, but they are there because they're fun, and they can't really explain why, and it's basically because of things like that. This, where it's like they're actually in quotation marks unfair, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it could be a sort of legacy. Yeah.
Yes.
There is one completely unrelated thing that I want to talk about. Well, it's not unrelated because it's about the same topic, but it's unrelated to what we're just talking about. And that's that I think that what most players... It's sort of related to CS, I guess. And that's that everything feels unfair when you don't understand it. And I think CS and like competitive multiplayer games are a perfect example of this. Because it's like... When you get killed in a way you don't understand, like you always get the reaction like, what the fuck, how did he do that? And you get super frustrated and it feels super unfair. And you know, a lot of people say he must be cheating, right? That's the usual thing. Like if someone doesn't understand why they died or how they died, they're like, oh yeah, he's cheating 100%. Like how could he know I was there?
Of course he's cheating. I'm the best player.
And it's like... And that's sort of what I mean when I say that everything feels unfair when you don't understand it, because you don't understand how he did that, and so it feels unfair, and so he must be cheating or whatever. And I think, you know, obviously it's very obvious in multiplayer games, but I think it also sort of translates to single player games as well. It's like when you're especially when you're starting to play a single player game, at least I feel this way. If it's like a well-designed game, at first I'm like, what the fuck, how was I supposed to, you know, do something about that? That's super unfair. But then as I play and as I learn how it works, like that feeling goes away because I understand, oh wait, there's an interesting mechanic here. Hold on.
Yeah, but I would argue though that this unfairness concept is better understood in the multiplayer space.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot, or like it's more accepted because it's inherent to the fact that you're playing against other people. So most I would say most of the popular multiplayer games still have a lot of this, right? So like,
competitive.
Yeah, for sure, competitive.
Yeah, but I think it's good that you bring that up because maybe I wasn't clear enough. Like, I do agree that people are more accepting of this in multiplayer games, but what I'm trying to say is that this is still true for single player games. It's just that people don't understand it, I guess. It's like designers don't understand that, you know, if you make an actually interesting mechanic that's actually hard, that's hard to understand, people are gonna say that it's unfair because they don't understand it. You know, the same as the example with CS, people are gonna say he's cheating because they don't understand how they could kill you.
Right, but so if we take like fighting games, for example, I think sure the new players say that, and maybe even the good players, that stuff is unfair. But I feel like even though the designers are doing very strange things to most modern multiplayer games, fighting games included, there is still actually some sort of understanding that. Because, you know, if we take fighting games again as an example, there's a lot of like frame stuff, right? It's like, oh, you do this attack and this, you can't do this attack before that attack, right? And it's like, it's this trade-off, right? Because when the designer looks at the gameplay mechanics, they're looking at it as both like actors of the action being players. So there's no like. It isn't unfair in the same way when they look at it, because it's like, oh, he did this attack before, so that's fair, right, for him or whatever, right? But when they do the single player games, this sort of disappears, it feels like. You know, at least the bigger studios, right? There's obviously smaller studios that think about stuff like this, but then it's like, oh well, they can just, you know, make it in quotation marks fair, right, by removing this thing from the enemy, because the enemy doesn't need it to feel fair for him. But the problem is it makes it uninteresting for the player.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it's like, you know, going back to the Viking example where you jump and then there's an enemy that pops up, or not pops up, but he comes from the side, right? And he surprises you. It's like the first time that happens, you're like, what the fuck? This is BS. You know, such a cheap level design, whatever. But then, like, when you start to like learn all of this stuff, that's like what makes the game interesting, because you're like, oh, now I need to do this jump, but I need to watch out for the guy that comes from the right here, so I need to wait, or I need to throw my spear or something, and like that's what makes the game interesting.
I guess it ties into the fact that I think we both agree on this, right? That you shouldn't be able to complete it on your first try necessarily, right? Yeah. Which is a very common idea among the designers, that nothing should stop you the first time, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's almost essential for an interesting game.
Yeah.
To not let you through the first time, because
I think going back to what I said in the beginning, modern game designers think that everything should be reactable, everything should be properly, clearly telegraphed, and whatever. But it's like, no, because what ends up happening is that the only thing I'm doing when I play the game is I'm reacting to what the enemy is doing.
Yes.
Taking parries as an example.
Yeah.
If I can parry exactly, if I can parry every attack that the enemy throws at me, I can just keep parrying. Obviously it's gonna be hard to like execute it perfectly. I might miss some parries and I might die because of it. But like in a strategic sense or a game sense, from a game sense perspective, the game becomes all about parrying, right? Because that's the solution to every problem.
Yeah.
And so if you suddenly add unparryable attacks, people are going to say, oh, that's unfair, I want to parry all the attacks. But no, that's how you make the game interesting, because all of a sudden you need to think about what you're doing.
But see, I don't know if I fully... Maybe I do agree with that. So, like, that is sort of the problem, because that is what they are doing.
Adding unparable attacks?
What they're doing. So if you look at this, is like the things I've seen, right? At least they do what they do is they add parry, and then you can parry everything. So then you have one mechanic.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh no, this is not nice. Now you can parry everything. So then they do the unparryable thing. Like even Sekiro does this, right? Yeah. Where it's like they have this red flash thing, and then you need to like jump or move out of the way. And so they have this, and it becomes this Simon Says thing, where you're like, okay, now the attack is green, now you do this. Okay, now the attack is red, now you do this. So I don't know if that is necessarily the thing you want. What you want is like, oh no, they did, it can't be like, how should I say this? It can't be you have these three things you can do, and in any moment you should do one of these things. It needs to be more nuanced. So it needs to be more like, oh, you...
Well, it becomes more, because the problem with, the Sekiro example is once again that the unparryable attack is clearly telegraphed. Like, the enemy makes a big swing and he flashes red.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily the telegraphing that's the problem. It's that there is still no nuance. So if I make a more extreme example, right? Let's say you have it's sort of what you're saying, but it's not exactly the same thing. Like you need to not be able to do anything about the attack, essentially, at your current point in time, for it to be interesting. You can't just add things to interrupt it. You need to be like, let's say we have a game where you can, like, you have iframes, dodge roll. Let's say it's like Dark Souls, right? And you dodge and it's instant, and they swing, right?
Yep.
And then they have like let's say they have an attack where they stop that, right?
Yeah.
And for you to stop that, you don't have a button to press. It's just that, it's really short and you need to stand further away, but you can punish it really well if you didn't stand close, right?
Yeah.
So that introduces an interesting dynamic where you can't just stand next to the enemy and dodge and then like do the stop the grab thing. You need to actually think about, okay, now he's doing that attack, so now I can stand close and punish. And wait, now he might do the grab, so now I need to move away. So it's not about adding, because that's what the modern games are doing. That's the problem. They're adding a bunch of stuff to like make you have many options, like making this big, lots of options that are useful in one situation, and that's. I would say that is the problem, right? You need like, oh no, you can't do anything about this here, or you can only do this thing here, and this thing happens there, and these things that are like super abstract and hard to explain to a normal person in quotation marks, right? And someone that doesn't think about game stuff. Otherwise, the game is boring. Yeah, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this example before on the podcast, but I'm not sure. And one thing I talk about modern game design and why I dislike it is my example of, I'll say the example first and then I'll explain.
Mm-hmm.
So what modern game designers do is, let's say we have an RPG or something, or a strategy game.
Yep.
They say, okay, let's add an armored enemy who takes half damage from all the attacks.
Yep.
Okay. They add that. Now they say, okay, now I need some way to deal with the armored enemy. Okay, I'll add a weapon type that ignores armor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, modern game designers always do this, and it frustrates me so much, because you've added an armored enemy that takes half damage from all attacks. Okay. Don't add the solution to that. Make the player come up with the solution in a way, right? Because it's like...
Well, you need some mechanics, right, to...
Yeah, of course.
Around it.
But like,
not flat. I say what you're saying, like not a flat, like this solves it. More like...
Yeah. But I think this is sort of similar to what you're talking about, because it's like they add an enemy that does a parryable attack, so then they add a parry to you so you can parry it, and then they do a attack that you can't parry, but they add a dodge so you can dodge, and it's like they offer the solutions to everything.
Yeah.
It's like, what if you, for example, took Sekiro but removed the dodge? I don't know if that would work, but it's like, okay, all of a sudden you need to be way more careful, right? And so it's like,
most of the game developers, you don't need the dodge, actually.
Yeah. But it's like, game developers come up with the problem and then they come up with the solution. Yeah. And it's like, no, let the player come up with the solution. That's the interesting thing, part of games.
There needs to be enough nuance in the mechanics too. I think it is fine if the developers does come up with the solutions, but but I see what you're saying. It shouldn't be like what's the word?
They did the red attack. Now use
it shouldn't be like they added a thing that solves it. It should be nuanced. So it's like, the developer realized that if you like, they made, like I said with the grab, like they made the grab really short, so you need to move away, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's obviously intentional, right? They know that, but it's not like, they added the thing to stop the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the nuances of the already established mechanics that's creating that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we mention movement creep yet?
No. Yeah, I guess we could talk about movement creep for a bit.
Because I think that's kind of related. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say what we mean when we say movement creep. Yeah. So a lot of, especially competitive games, tend to over time, as they add, so like a game that has characters like Overwatch or whatever, or a MOBA like League of Legends.
Yeah.
Over time, they add when they add new characters, they tend to, for some reason, just add more and more and more movement mechanics to the new characters. And this ties into what we were saying, like it's solutions to problems, I guess. Yeah. I don't know exactly why it's happening, but I'm assuming it's like, it seems like it's more skill based if they can move a lot.
Yeah.
And then it solves issues. But the problem is then they need to go back and rebalance the older characters, and then they get more movement as well. So the game becomes less interesting. Is, I guess, my opinion. I don't know what you think.
I have a pretty good example of this actually, and it's League of Legends.
Yeah.
So I've played League of Legends for like 50 hours in my life, so not a lot, and I don't like the game, but I have played it. And one of the things I noticed when I played League of Legends, when I tried it out, was that there's a lot of like mechanics to get out of the way, or like get away from the enemy. So it's like your character will have one dodge ability, and then there's like, you can select a dodge ability from the like menu, and you can like buy an item that lets you
before
dodge.
The game,
yeah, exactly. And it's like, the thing I noticed is that let's say I was playing Teemo top, which I was.
Yeah.
And I overextended myself. I went too close to the enemy tower, and I'm getting ganked. So there's like the guy on the top lane, he's coming for me, and then there's the jungler, he's coming for me too. And they're gonna fuck me up because I overextended and I'm too far away.
Yeah.
The thing that ends up happening is that I have like 4 movement abilities that I spam to get behind the safety of my tower. And I think that feels... Yeah. I think that feels skill-based. It's like, wow, I was so good, I got out of that shitty situation. But like, what would have been more skill-based, and what would have made the game a lot more interesting, in my opinion, is that like, if I have overextended in the top lane and I'm getting ganked, I'm fucked.
Also, another thing to point out there, it feels super shitty to be the other player.
Yeah.
In that situation, because it's like, oh, I'm so good, I got out of the way. But it's from the other person's perspective, it's like, oh, I tricked him into my tower and into my trap, and he just did 5 movement abilities to get out of the way.
Yeah. And that's super uninteresting, because like, if I overextend, I should be punished for it. But by having all of these movement abilities, it makes the game more fair, in quotation marks, because I can get out of an unfair situation, an unfair 2v1 gank, right? In quotation marks. But like, no, it's less interesting because I'm not punished for my mistakes.
Yeah.
And the enemy can't take advantage of my mistakes either. And so League of Legends would have been a way more interesting game if it had fewer movement abilities, because it would have been more strategic, like more tactical, and there would have been more consequences to your actions. But because of this like focus on fairness and like stuff like that, it becomes more boring.
Yeah, so since we're talking about MOBAs, I have to bring up Dota 2 actually.
Yeah.
Because it's such an interesting counterexample. Because I don't like League of Legends at all. I'm a Dota person. I played a lot of Dota. Dota 2. I don't like the direction it's going in now. I think they've hired League of Legends designers, honestly. They're doing a lot of this stuff. But if you look at the core mechanics of that game, it's doing so much of the stuff we're talking about today. So, for example, your character has a turn rate in that game, which means it takes time, like, for your character to turn around.
Yeah.
And all of your abilities have like cast times and cast like there's like an animation, and then there is a cast time and stuff. It's like super slow and methodical mechanics, right?
Yeah.
And there are some heroes that has some movement stuff, but most of it, and especially in modern ones, right? And there's items and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of the characters can't really move around that well. So there's a lot of situations in that game where you just die, and a lot of people I played with have like expressed frustration over what was I supposed to do, and they shouldn't have been there in the first place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Dota is a very strategical game. It's not about reaction-based skills at all. And I think actually even among people that are more game design aware, I think especially Dota style, like MOBAs in general actually, but the Dota style is still a bit misunderstood actually, because of how like Dota is actually, I would argue, too complex. Like there's too much stuff you can get punished from in that game. But it's really fun. I think that's why a lot of people play it, when you do understand a lot of the things, right, going on.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. Like it's hard to get into, I guess. That's the problem. Because there's so much stuff going on. Like you need to know, like, oh, you can't stand this close to the tower. You can't stand here at this time, and you need to check the map to see where people are, and there's all these things, and you need to like. I don't know how League of Legends deals with this, but in Dota sometimes you can be on a lane against another hero, and that hero just is insanely good against your hero. Or like it's just a lane punishing hero, so you can literally not be on lane. Like you will have to rely on your team basically to and try to not die and try to get as much gold as possible, because there is nothing you can do. The hero will just kill you instantly if you go on lane. Yeah. And that sounds very frustrating, but it's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think more modern games need to think about stuff like that, just in like smaller, like, because Dota is insanely complicated. Like there's basically too much, and the games are too long. Yeah. But if you could use some of that like interesting part in other games, that would be really great, I think. Sorry, but about Dota rant.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I guess we've gone slightly off topic here, so let's move us back. One thing I wanted to talk about was, and I know that you agree with me here, is that I really enjoy, and we've touched on it slightly already, but I really enjoy when game designers troll the player, right?
Yes.
And so the perfect example of this is in 1001 Spikes. I think it's in one of the first levels. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was quite a while ago I played the game. But essentially, it's like a 2D puzzle game sort of about dodging traps.
An action game, I would say, maybe, or
I guess
action platform. I wouldn't say it's a puzzle game really. Like it's reaction.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. No. So essentially, there's like a section of the map where there's like a hole or a drop that you need to jump over, but before that there's a box that you need to push. And so what most people do is that they push the box into the hole and then they jump over. But the thing is that you need to go back after you've jumped over the hole, and you needed that box to get back up the ledge, because there's a ledge before.
You don't even need to push the box, right? You can just jump over it.
Exactly. So the solution to that is to jump over the box, then jump over the hole, and then jump back and push the box so you can jump up to the ledge. But like that sort of game design is, most people would say that's unfair. Don't do that. You're trolling the player. That's mean. But that's interesting game design to me, because I made the assumption, there's a box in my way. I need to push it. And that assumption was wrong.
Yes.
It's like, that's interesting. The game tricked me into doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. I want to point out one thing here, though. And this is that this only works if the game handles game over gracefully, which we talked about last time. Yes. Plugging last episode. Watch last episode. Very interesting one, in my opinion. A lot of good points, I would say. Exactly. I agree completely with what you're saying about that. There is, because it's like I don't know about you, but most of my, I wouldn't say my favorite moments, but I really, really like it when I play a game and I feel really smart because I figured out how this I'm supposed to do it, and then the developer goes, "No, you don't."
Yeah,
and then you're screwed, and it's I know. I mean, I don't know why that's a good feeling, because it doesn't sound good when I say it, but it's like, I'm like, man, this guy is smart. Sense. He tricked me.
Yeah, it makes sense, because you're like, oh, I get it, and then you try to do it, and then it's like, oh wait, I don't get it, and now you need to like take a few steps back, and like that's interesting game design. That's interesting to play.
Yeah, I guess it makes it more memorable and like hammers
because you're like, oh yeah, this is easy.
Yeah, and you like remember what you're supposed to do more clearly. I think it's like a good way to tutorialize certain mechanics, because it's telling you no. This is like, you remember it because I guess this ties into like psychological stuff where like failure, like people like think more about failure than about success. Like they're more loss averse than like getting more is less important than not losing what you have.
Yeah.
So you remember it more clearly because like you lost. I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
I think the 1001 Spikes example is very good, because after that thing happened, it's one of the first levels in the game, right?
Yep.
After that thing happened, every time I saw a box in that game, I was like, am I supposed to push this now, or should I? So every time I see a box, I stop and think, what should I do with this box?
Yeah.
And like, that's interesting game design, right?
Yeah.
Because no other game does that. no other game makes me think, should I push this pushable box?
I mean,
because the answer is always
let's not
push
say
it.
no game, but
Okay, yeah, but it's very uncommon.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit unfair. But like, it's very uncommon because most of the time when you see a pushable box, the solution is to push it. But 1001 Spikes trolled me, and I learned from it.
Yes.
And that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So, do you wanna rant about the Elden Ring DLC? You told me you had something to say about
I don't have a lot to say about it because the problem with I haven't played the Elden Ring DLC. But it was this interesting phenomenon that happened, in my opinion, where this happened with Elden Ring as well, but even more with the DLC, and that is that the how should I say this? The people expressed frustration over the difficulty of certain sections in that game. They used word like overtuned and like this is not fun difficulty or whatever, right? And I feel like those words kind of don't mean anything, right? Like, what does it mean that this is overtuned? Because in my opinion, most of the from software, right? I've played most of their most of the Souls-like games they've made, right? And they're really careful with the like fairness, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. They do kind of make. I mean, they made Sekiro, right? Which is like you just parry, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, sure they have weight to the mechanic, but like my point is the more modern games have less punishment, right? They're less. So if we split up our definition of unreactable versus reactable, right? So you have unreactable stuff, which is like the grab we talked about earlier, where you have to move out of the way beforehand, otherwise you're fucked. Yeah. Stuff like that. There's less and less of that in like if you go back, the older Souls games have more of that.
Yeah.
So and they're slower paced, right? So it's like you have a big sword that you swing really slowly, and the enemies don't attack really fast, but like you're punished because you committed to this very slow swing or whatever, right? And the newer games are faster paced, right? They're the less commitment, things go faster. So in theory, they're actually more fair.
Yep.
But people still seem to think that they're not because they're like overtuned, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Yeah, I haven't played Elden Ring, but I have played Sekiro and I've played a bit of Dark Souls, and it's like, for example, the gargoyle things on the roof in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I don't remember their names,
Belfry.
but it's basically a boss where you're like fighting against a gargoyle, and then like halfway through the fight, another gargoyle comes and like.
That's by the way a really good thing. We talked about before. It's like, oh, I got this, and then the game is like, no, you don't. Yeah. And there's another one. Yeah, it's a good moment, and people remember that. That's the funny thing, even though it's like frustrating. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
And so I think that's sort of a good example of unfair game design, because when you're just against the one gargoyle, it's like you can dodge and you can block and whatever. But when there's two gargoyles, you can't just rely on the dodge, right? Can't just. You need to have good positioning so that, because you can't dodge two attacks at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And so you need to position yourself well so that you're not in a position where you can get hit by two attacks at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of really good example of unfair game design, in my opinion. And I think I assume what you're trying to say about Elden Ring is that it's moved away from that, and it's more about like landing a perfect parry or something like that.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's not. Actually, it's good that you said that, because this makes it easy to like. I kind of know how to explain this now. So there's a lot of bad things with Elden Ring, right? The open world is boring, and it takes time. But I still respect the designers, because what they realized, okay, so I'm gonna try to explain, and I think this is why people don't like it, and that's the interesting thing, right? the way the bosses are designed. So if you think about Dark Souls, so Dark Souls is designed like boss does attack.
Yep.
Attack is telegraphed. And then it's your turn, right? It's like a thing, back and forth, right? It's you do attack, then, boss does attack, and then he like winds up his next attack or something, right? And then you can attack once, and then maybe some attacks you can't attack. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's like a back and forth flow, and so what the designers of Elden Ring realized is people have like learned this flow, and so they're doing these really interesting things where like there is basically no gaps in their chains, and you need to create, like, you need to think more carefully about where the gaps are in their attacks. Yeah, so it's more like, I need to stand here, and I need to do one swing before, like before because a lot of them, like, they'll do this thing where they'll hold up it looks really stupid, right? They'll hold up their weapon for like 10 seconds and then slam it down or something to like mess with your timing.
Yeah.
And then you need to like realize that, actually that's an opening.
Yeah.
Right? You can attack while he's doing that, but people don't think that way because they've been trained from the other games that, it's my turn now, so now I can attack. And now it's less clear when that happens. So there's more nuance to the like one-on-one stuff actually in Elden Ring compared to the older games.
Okay.
So in that sense, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that is kind of not nice about like how long the fights are or whatever, and some stuff is not perfect, but that part, like how they tried to do that, at least I think is really interesting. But it's also interesting because people don't like it, right?
Yeah,
people react negatively to it because it feels, I guess I think the problem also is that Souls is like established, and people, it's become sort of a cult thing, right? Where people are like, I can beat Souls, and then they feel bad because they can't just beat this game, right?
Yeah.
Like it's their identity thing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I also think that perhaps you're being a bit unfair because like Elden Ring is way more popular than Dark Souls is, right?
That is true. That is true.
So the people, like, there are more people who complain, obviously, but there are also more people who play the game.
But I think so people that say, this game is too hard, or like whatever, those might be new players, but I feel like a lot of the players that are complain about the like over tuning specifically are people that have played the older games.
That's true, yeah.
Because they're like, I've been playing Souls forever, but this is too much for me, or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Because then it becomes like an ego thing, I guess.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm the guy who knows how to play Dark Souls. I shouldn't struggle with this.
Yeah.
This is unfair, they say.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's...
I don't know if I made any good points there, but that was just an interesting
I understand what you're trying to say,
about how they did sort of solve it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have another point that we wanted to talk about that's sort of unrelated to what we've been talking about before, but it's we talked about it in the first episode, I think, of the podcast. I don't remember. Watch it if you haven't.
Watch all of them.
And that's sort of developer focus on freedom of expression. And you know, this goes back to like all of the things we've talked about today, like movement creep and whatever. And it feels like, you know, we talked about it on the first episode, as I said. It's like player freedom isn't necessarily good because the game should be an obstacle, right?
Yes.
And so allowing me to do whatever I want means that the game is not interesting. I mean, sorry. Yeah. It's like the limitations are what makes the game interesting, right?
Yeah. So like I can bring this back to what we just talked about with an example. So that is actually a big issue with Elden Ring. Because Elden Ring is an open world.
Yeah.
So what happens in the open world? Well, you have a horse and you just ride past everything and pick up stuff, and they kind of solved it with some dungeons and stuff. But like that's actually one thing that they've lost over time. So if you go back and look at Demon's Souls, there's a lot of narrow corridors and like labyrinths and stuff. So this actually goes back to the stuff was it last time? I don't remember, or was it the time before? We talked about like how Demon's Souls, the level was part of the challenge. from A to B. And that's sort of lost over time. And this is because of this freedom thing, right? Because if you have more space, you'll just like not deal with it, right? Whereas if the game is like, no, you have to do this thing here.
Yeah.
Then it becomes an obstacle, right?
Yeah. And I think the reason we wanted to bring this up, just to make it like clear what it has to do with like today's topic, is that I think a lot of developers see this as unfair, right? It's like you can't do whatever you want, so it's unfair.
Yeah.
Which is not true. It's what a game is, in a sense. If we want to sound philosophical, it's like
I was just gonna say, and it's just boring. Like I don't remember. I don't remember what game this was, but I just remember some game designer talking about game design. And it was like, think about where you place your enemies. Make it an open space, so there's a lot of space for the player to express, like they can use the mechanics like jump and stuff.
Yeah.
So he had an example where there was like a low roof, right? And like this is, he was saying this is less interesting because you can't do anything here.
Yeah.
But and then he had another where it was open and he was like just jumping over everything or whatever, right? And it's, this is better because you can express yourself more or whatever, right? But it's like when I looked at that, I'm like, that's backwards, because the tunnel is way more interesting, because it's like, no, I can't like just go in here and jump like a maniac. I need to like lure this guy out or something. And so there's something like, about how designers think about this stuff that is backwards, I guess.
It's like forcing the player to do something in an unusual way is somehow unfair. Yeah. I guess, It's like, your roof example, like, this roof is not very tall or very high.
Yeah, so it was like a platformer, so it was like blocks, so you can't jump.
Yeah, I get, And so, like, in that situation, it becomes more interesting because the tools you usually have aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And, so you need to adapt and think of a new solution to the problem.
And also, I would argue if it isn't more interesting than is Bite Me or design, that's not that interesting, right? Because...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it could be less interesting, yes, but like it sounds more interesting to me.
Yeah, but like if your game doesn't have any mechanics, basically, right? Then it's gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them are gonna be boring. There needs to be nuance to your mechanics, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually have a sort of long rant.
I have a point to make on that rant.
Go ahead first. Because
it is tied to your rant, I think.
Okay. And that's I'm once again going back to the example of CS, because I play a lot of CS, as I always say in every episode, and it's that there's two things that really annoys me about people who play CS and what they say about CS in a design sense. And it's not only about CS, it's about, I hear this about every competitive game ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up one later.
Okay, yeah. So the first one is comeback mechanics.
Okay.
I despise comeback mechanics. Why do you sound so surprised?
Because go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
So comeback mechanics annoy the shit out of me. And CS has one comeback mechanic, and it's in the economy. So for those few of you that haven't played CS, I'm sure most of you have, CS has like, you buy weapons for money, right?
Yep.
And every round, if you win, you get an amount of money, and if you lose, you get a little bit less money. And the thing about like the modern updates to CS, I guess, is that they are so focused on having like fair economy in quotation marks. So what ends up happening is that they've added a loss bonus, right? So if you lose several rounds in a row, you get more money the more rounds you lose, so that you can come back, right?
Yeah.
Because it's unfair that your economy is worse than the enemy's, right? Even though they're winning.
Yeah.
And recently, in one of the most recent updates, they added for the CT side, only for the CT side, for fairness sake, because the CT economy was harder than the T economy, they added so that for every kill that someone gets on the CT side, everyone in the CT team gets $50.
Okay.
And so that's sort of a way to balance the unbalanced economy, or the unfair economy, I guess.
Okay.
And all of this is so uninteresting to me, because like one of the things, the most interesting things about the CS is the economy. Because what ends up happening is that if you have a bad economy, right, you have worse weapons.
Yeah.
Or you'll take an eco round where you don't buy anything, so you waste a round so that you have more money for the next round so that you can buy weapons.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening when they add all of these comeback mechanics is that the economy doesn't really matter as much anymore. It's like you can sort of like tank the bad economy for a few rounds because the loss bonus is gonna make you recover.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I'm afraid that, because right now it's not too bad in CS, it's like one of the most mild forms of comeback mechanics I've seen in a competitive game. But it's like, I'm afraid that CS is gonna start becoming unplayable because they keep adding stuff like this.
Yeah, it probably will. I'm sorry.
yeah, and it's so frustrating. And I see this with like all of the, like, or not all, but like, it's always a discussion around competitive games. It's like, you need to have a comeback mechanic or whatever, or like built-in comeback mechanic. You know the what's the example? I think it's like, oh, I forgot. Never mind. But it's like, yeah, it annoys me so much because the game becomes less interesting.
Yeah.
The economy becomes less interesting because the interesting part of the economy is that if you lose, you're fucked, and like that's not unfair. Is what that's the most important point, I think. It's not unfair that your economy is bad after you lose. That's the game.
Yeah.
It's fair. But people keep complaining like, oh yeah, I've lost 5 rounds in a row and we can't afford any weapons. That's unfair. No, do like another eco round so that you have money to buy weapons next round. That's like a mechanic of the game.
Yeah.
First rant over. Do you want to say anything about that?
I want to say that I agree, and I don't know why this is the case, because again, I think this, in particular, this thing with like, so modern games don't have systems that punish players for losing, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have that problem. But old games that are popular still, because these mechanics are interesting, right?
Yeah.
Have those mechanics, and for some reason, developers can't put, what do you say, 2 and 2 together, and realize that it's sort of part of why it is interesting.
Yeah.
And they always try to remove it somehow. I don't really know why, because I guess they're not thinking about it in a competitive sense. I guess they're thinking about it in like a marketing sense. Like they want it to be...
I think it's the opposite. I think they are thinking of it in a competitive sense.
But it's not interesting from a competitive
unfair.
perspective.
No, it's not interesting, but they think that it's unfair that one team gets less money because they lose. I think genuinely
right, but that's like... I think, yeah, but maybe they're looking at it from like a casual perspective where it's like...
No, because like the thing about CS is that pros are complaining about it too. Like CS pros are complaining like the economy is unfair. You need to add more bonuses for the CT side because their weapons are more expensive or something.
Okay, but play another game.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's what makes it so insane, because like if we're gonna add a bunch of comeback mechanics so that you can buy full weapons and grenades every round, why even have a system where you can't buy full weapons and grenade every round, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's one of the main interesting parts of CS, the economy. And they're trying to remove it, slowly but surely with every update. And it annoys me so much.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of ties back to movement creep as well, because...
Exactly.
That does the same thing. It's like, oh, I stood here and I couldn't do anything.
Exactly.
And then
it's like, oh yeah, I lost.
5 jump attacks to get away or whatever. Like, one thing that I think is, maybe it doesn't matter as much, but like League of Legends, you mentioned earlier, they have like, are they called inhibitors? I don't remember. Like it's called barracks in Dota. Like the things that make you have big minions.
Yeah.
That thing respawns in League of Legends, right?
Okay.
You're the League of Legends player.
Yeah, no, as I said, I played.
I think there is, which
like
is crazy to me, because it's like, oh, you did, like, because in Dota it's like you'll take like big risks and stuff to get the barracks, right? Because that lane is basically won if you get their barracks there, right? Because then it's gonna be pushed up, and they're gonna like it's super punishing in Dota. You get like they have more health, like your creeps, and they give you less gold, and they do more damage, right? So it's like that lane is basically ruined for the enemy team if you destroy the barracks.
Yeah.
But in League of Legends, they try to like mitigate that stuff for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah. But you were gonna make another point, you said, so go ahead.
Yes, I have a second CS rant prepared. And it's sort of related.
And this one I think is the one I have a point on as well.
Yeah. And it's that, CS right now with CS2, it's the first 13 rounds wins.
Yeah.
So the first 12 rounds you're playing as a terrorist, and the next 12 you're playing as a counter-terrorist, or vice versa. And the thing about that is that the game completely resets after the first 12 rounds, right? So it's like you play your side and then you swap sides, and then the game resets and you play your other side. Yeah. And CS is what's it called?
Asymmetric.
It's asymmetric. Thank you. It's asymmetric. So CTs are defenders and terrorists are attackers, and the terrorists have different weapons than CTs, and so like the sides aren't completely balanced.
Yeah.
And one thing that people complain about a lot, which I don't think matters at all, is map-sidedness. And so this is the idea that if that a map is essentially balanced in the favor of one side or the other. So like if you look at the stats for one map, it might have CTs win 60% of the rounds and Ts win 40% of the rounds, or something like that. And people complain about that so much, and I don't understand why, because it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if a map is designed in a way where CTs win 100% of the rounds, that may be bad, right? Obviously, fix that.
I mean,
like,
I don't...
100% is bad.
From a competitive perspective, maybe, but it's sort of interesting still. I mean, 100% is kind of rough, because then you can't win.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Like, that would mean there's always draws. Yeah. But, like, having a map that's heavily favors one team is sort of interesting, actually.
Exactly. Because what people complain about is that a map being sided in one way or another is unfair.
Yeah.
Which is it's not, because you have 12 rounds as a terrorist.
Yeah.
You have 12 rounds as a counter-terrorist, as the counter-terrorists. And so there is literally no way for that to be unfair.
Yeah.
Now, the argument that people say that makes this unfair is that, well, if a map is CT-sided and you start as a terrorist, you're gonna have fewer wins when you start the second half.
Right, but you need to win.
But that doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly, because the game resets after the half.
Yeah.
And so, you just need to win as many rounds as the other team did when the side was in their favor.
I guess you need to win them slightly earlier to get a small advantage, but...
Yeah.
Like, potentially, right? If I'm not thinking about this wrongly. Like, let's say you win 2 rounds.
Yeah, that's true. But it's like... I don't know, because it doesn't make any sense. Because it's not unfair that a map is sided.
No, I know.
It's not unfair. Because you get the same amount of rounds. And you could argue that, it's like a mental thing. It's like, if I start on the bad side, I'm going to have bad mental space when it's my good half. But it's like, okay, that's a skill issue.
Yeah.
Like, don't have a bad mental state because you lose a few rounds on a map that's unbalanced in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a similar example. Like, we've talked about this game before a lot, and we've even talked about it on this podcast, which is Nosgoth.
Yep.
Yeah. So one of my favorite maps in that game is a map called Freeport. I think you know which one it is. It's like the harbor thing. And the thing is, so in that game you're playing as like vampires that are melee and humans that are ranged. So maps that have a lot of tall buildings favor vampires a lot, right?
Yeah.
And maps that don't and are very open are favor humans.
Yeah.
And Freeport is in that direction, where it's like very hard for the vampires to approach the humans.
Yeah.
And almost all the players hate that map. And it's my favorite map. And they tell me, why do you like that map? It's unfair. And I'm like, no, it's not. I get to play both sides. It doesn't matter if I get 10 kills as vampires.
Yeah.
I just need to get more kills than you did.
Exactly.
Right? It's like it becomes the goal of that map becomes get as many kills as possible as vampire, right?
Yeah.
Not which is interesting because it creates variety. Whereas if it was like, oh yeah, it could go either way. Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess that's interesting as well. But like it creates dynamics. This is sort of back to the competitive or the like we talked about multiplayer, right? In the like second episode where we talked about this, where like you have teams, right, and they play in certain ways, and that will create interesting dynamics based on how the maps favor.
Yeah.
So like even like you said in CS, right? Maybe a team. I mean in CS it's not as different because like you can't. I mean there's a slight. Let's say there's a team that they're really good with, as terrorists or something. I mean it's not really the same thing in CS, but in non-Scott it is, right? Because it's a very different game. It's very asymmetrical. So you'll have a team that's really good at the vampires and really bad at the humans, and they might or might not. It depends, right? Do really well on this map because they are so skilled at vampires they can get a lot of kills on this human favored map, so they get the benefit out of the fact that it's easier to play humans. But it could also be the other way, right? You don't know. Maybe like they face a really skilled human team that can utilize the map.
Yeah.
So
and also, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was go ahead.
Yeah. So and also another good point with that is that competitive games usually nowadays have, and CS also does this. It has picks and bans for maps, right?
Yeah.
And so if you know that you're up against a very good CT team,
yes,
you might want to pick a map that's T-sided.
Is that the thing,
and all
by
of
the
a
way?
sudden,
I don't follow the competitive.
Yeah.
Are there like...
As you said, it's like not that big of a difference.
I mean, they can be good at a certain map as a certain team, I guess, right?
Yeah. Teams are very good at like different maps.
Yeah.
That's
and they can be good at the certain sides, right, on certain maps as well, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. And so... so I think like one example of a pretty CT-sided map is Nuke. I don't know if it's CT map sided still, but I know that it was very CT-sided previously. And so like if you were up against a team that had a good CT side and had a good CT side on Nuke, you were like, okay, let's not pick Nuke because they're gonna fuck us up.
Yeah.
Or like maybe you're up against a team that has a unreasonably good T side on Nuke for some reason. And so maybe you want to pick that if you're that team or something like that.
Yeah.
And it adds so much interest rather than if all maps were just completely balanced and fair, in quotation marks. It's like, no, that makes the game uninteresting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess my rant is over.
Yeah. I want to bring up a final point that we touched on it before, but I like want to hammer it home, essentially, and maybe then we can wrap up.
Yeah.
And that is memorization, right?
Yeah.
So a word. So going back to the topic, we've been on topic, but like so people remember what we're talking about. We're talking about fairness, right? And how fairness, like perceived fairness, is boring, right? Because all games, what we're saying is all games are fair, but people's perceived fairness creates uninteresting and boring games because people are not skilled enough.
Yeah. And
memorization is sort of this thing, like this word that people throw around where it's like, oh, that's boring, you just need to memorize the thing. And you even see that in like rhythm games, which is really interesting to me. I think we had a discussion about this before, right? Where people will say rhythm games are memorization, you just memorize the thing, and it's like it's all about memorization because like I don't know. It's weird. Like memories. So like the way I would define memorization, right? It's something you have to know. So it goes back to what we said before about unreactable versus reactable. So if you have an attack that an enemy does that you cannot do anything about if you're standing at a certain distance from him, then that is, in quotation marks, memorization, right? You need to memorize, because you could argue everything is memory, right? So it's like, it's a dumb term. My point is we shouldn't use memorization. We should say like reactable or unreactable and stuff like that, right? And so by definition, that's not what a rhythm game is, right? But even then, like, my point is that memorization then, based on what we're saying now, right, is interesting, right? You shouldn't think about memorization as a bad thing. Because all that is something you have to know in advance, which we already established is interesting. Like, you shouldn't be able to do everything on your first try.
Exactly.
That was sort of my point. Like, memorization is a bad word, and
it's like, I guess one thing you could call it is learning from experience.
But the thing is, you can call even the React stuff, right? So, reacting to stuff. Like, so I see why someone is saying, like, I can see why someone is saying, like, oh, a rhythm game is memorization.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go by the definition that it's something that you need to memorize before, like, you can't react to it without memorizing it, then it's not, right? Because a rhythm game is completely reaction based. It's not unreactable ever.
Exactly.
Because you can always click on the button.
Yeah. If you can't react to it, it's a skill issue in a way.
Yeah, it is. But it's fast, so it's perceived as memorization because the player is not skilled enough, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, there are things in games where you can't react to, like, and it doesn't even have to be reactions. It can literally be your character can't move that fast.
Yeah.
So you need to know that this thing can happen, right? Like the grab we made up or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or like in Dota, where you need to know that, well, I can't just stand there because the pudge is gonna gank me and kill me, or so, whatever.
Yeah.
Old reference, pudge. I don't know how relevant he is right now. I don't know. Yeah. That was my point. Memorization, word bad, reaction. Yeah. But memorizing is, but the definition of what it is, which is unreactable, is interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess we covered most of the things we wanted to cover, right?
Yeah, we've had a long episode today.
That's good.
Do we want to wrap up with our final thesis here?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. Fair games are boring.
Yeah.
Perceived fairness. Rather, exactly, perceived fairness is wrong.
Yeah.
Unfair doesn't exist. Technically it does exist, but it's like
we kind of established it didn't, right? Unless there's a player on the other team.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you also the thing about, like, okay, it's the CS stuff is unfair, right? But it isn't, because you get to play both sides and stuff.
Exactly.
Yes. It's really hard. It's really hard to create something that is unfair. Like, you can't argue objectively about this stuff, right? But it's really hard to create something that would be as close as objectively fair or unfair as, right? Because there's always gonna be this one person, right? That's like, they've played this game for 10,000 hours and it's basically a skill issue. Everything is a skill issue, right?
Yeah. So make more unfair games, I guess.
Yeah, well, fair games.
Yes.
Depends on how you look at it. Make more stuff that makes people frustrated. I guess that's how I would say it. Frustration is really underrated in games.
Yes.
So more frustrating stuff. We might have to talk about that.
That's
in the future.
Another episode in the future.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching.
Yes.
Like and subscribe and watch our older videos because they're good. Some of them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.